Hi, so we're going to start this unit on tables and graphs, and we're going to start with frequency tables and line plots. Most of the time that you see a frequency table, you'll see a line plot coming up shortly after. They typically go hand in hand, although that's not necessarily always true. There will be times that we'll have to just deal with frequency charts or just line plots. So we're going to start with an example here. And it says here it's dealing with art projects that students are in an art class were given the choice of doing a painting, a sculpture, or drawing as their project for the quarter. That's like a semester. Which type of project was chosen most often? One way to organize data or information is to use a frequency table. A frequency table lists the numbers of times each item occurs in a data set. So it's just one way to organize data. A frequency table is really helpful when you have repetitive information within your data. So this is a really good time to use a frequency table, and we'll also do a line plot with it later. So over in the right hand corner you can see all the different choices that the students selected, whether it was a painting, a sculpture, or a drawing. And so to make a frequency table, we start down here and we start with our three columns. The first column is what your information is about, which in this case would be an art project. The second is the tally, and the third is the frequency. And the tally and the frequency are always going to be your second and third column. So from there, you just fill in. You do a tally mark for each one of the times that the painting or the sculpture or the drawing repeated itself in the data set. Notice in the tally that you do 4 lines, and on the 5th one you cross over. And that's just an easy way to keep it in groups of 5. The frequency is actually what the tally number is in written numerically. So the answer here, because the question asked which one happened most often, painting was the most often. So this is a really good example of a table. Let's take a look at a line plot and then we'll do some examples. Line plots. When the items or categories being tallied are numbers, a line plot can be a visual display of the data. A line plot uses X marks above each number to show the frequencies. So notice that it does tell you that when your categories are numbers, that's when you can use a line plot. So in our last example, when we were talking about art projects, that would not be a good example to use a line plot because our information was drawings, sculptures, and paintings. So those aren't numbers, so that's not the time to use that. But here, we're going to look at an example that it is a good way to use a line plot. So the frequency table shows how many books the students in the class read during the summer vacation. So some people read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 books. And the tally marks is how many students that was, and then the frequency is the number written numerically. Part A says to make a line plot of the data. So if you take a look below, you'll see that the line plot actually starts with just a number line. You just draw a number line and you number it, whatever your numbers are. In this case, we have 1 to 6. It could be much higher. It could even be negative numbers. Then each X is given for each tally mark. So 5 students read 1 book. So under the number 1, we have 5 X's. Same thing with number 2. We had 5 people who read 2 books. So we've got 5. Then we've got 6, and so on. So part B, now that you have your line plot drawn, part B says use the line plot to find the total number of students. Well, we would just count them all together. And part C says use the line plot to find how many students read 4 or more books. And so then we would just take a look at how many X's are under 4, 5, or 6. So let's look at some examples now. So it says during a car trip, Egg counted the number of red, black, blue, and green cars he passed on the highway. The results are shown in the box. Make a tally table, which is also known as a frequency table. Each color of car Ed counted most often. So one thing I notice first thing when I'm looking at this frequency is that it's not completely done. We do have the items on the left, but if you remember the last time we talked, we need to split this up into 2 more. This side should be where my frequency goes, and this is for my tallies. Now we can go ahead and start tallying them up. And I'm literally just going to take a look and I see red and blue. So I'm going to do a tally for red, and a tally for blue. And I'm going to cross them out as I go to make sure I get them all. Black and green, blue and red, green and black, red and red, blue and red. Notice I'm going to my fifth one on my red, so that one goes diagonally. The fifth one goes diagonally. Red, then black, and we just start a new one over, and black. So now let's go ahead and count this up. So on the reds, we've got 5 plus another one, so we've got 6. For black, we've got 4 cars, blue, we've got 3 cars, and green, we've got 2 cars. So that is our frequency table. And the question asked, which color of car did Ed count most often? That would be the red car. Here we're going to make a line plot of the data. So I'm going to do basically the exact same thing, but instead of tally marks, I'm going to do X's above the numbers. And you can notice I've got a really long number line because my data is pretty spread out here. All right, so we've got 17, 33, 17, and 33. 28, 21, 28, 21, 29, 46, 29, 46, 34, 52, 34, and 52, 47, 55, 47, 55, 55, 41, 55, and 41. And notice when I did my 55, my second one, I just put it right on top. 27, 48, 27, and 48. 18, 19, 18 and 19. 39, 23, 39 and 23. 42, 25, 42, 25, and 22. There we go. There's my line plot. So we can tell that actually all the ages of the truck drivers, the only one that was repetitive was 55. And we're not going to worry about this second example down here. That's actually going to be with another kind of chart that we will do at another time. So we are good to go.